Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to discuss why you should build a leave request system in Office 365 and Teams. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping. So we would really love to make this as interactive as possible. We don't want to talk at you, so don't be shy. Go ahead and use that question box in the GoToWebinar panel. And yes, there will be a recording, so you don't have to worry about taking notes. You will get all of this. And lastly, so today we will be focusing on a high-level discussion, but we're happy to schedule a one-on-one meeting with you if you would like to talk about how this might work for your specific organization and see a bit more. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so we are Crow Canyon. We are the creators of NITRO Studio. We are a Microsoft preferred business application, and we're GSA certified as well.
Krista, just sorry to interrupt a moment, but I think we lost your screen. I just wanted to point out I think we're not on the screen anymore.
Well, thank you so much. Let's try that again. Can you see it now?
There we go.
Okay, great. Thanks, James. Sorry about that, everyone. So we are Crow Canyon, the creators of NITRO Studio, and we're a Microsoft preferred business application. We are GSA certified as well, and we have provided and developed solutions in the SharePoint and Office 365 arena for hundreds of companies globally. My name, by the way, is Krista White. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Crow Canyon, and I'm joined today by Jeff Priest, our COO, and James Restivo, our VP of Product Development. Alrighty. So here at Crow Canyon, our specialty is helping businesses succeed with Office 365, Teams, and SharePoint. We provide business applications for innovative out-of-the-box solutions. And as I mentioned, we are also the creators of no-code NITRO Studio, Forms and Workflows. You may have heard of us. And NITRO is an adaptable application creation platform. We also provide advanced chatbots and apps for Microsoft Teams to help power productivity and take your organization to the next level. And I should also note that all of our products run in Office 365, including GCC and GCC High, as well as SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019, and SE. Now, one last thing to point out before we jump into it, NITRO Studio integrates with a wide range of third-party software and processes. We also have some pre-built applications that you can purchase directly from us. So this is just to give you an idea of some of the various solutions that we cover. But now, with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into the why and get things started with Jeff. Jeff, why did we build this in Office 365?
Yeah, so thanks, Krista, for that intro. So one of the things that we, as a company, we've spent a number of decades now building solutions within the SharePoint environment. And of course, with the advent of Office 365, that introduction, we then got heavily involved in Office 365. I think for us, initially it was this idea of collaboration and environment that a lot of enterprises had adopted. A lot of times not used in the way that probably Microsoft hoped, but there's evangelism out there that was helping to get people to use SharePoint and collaborate more effectively. And Office 365 now has been open up the door opportunity for us because now everything's sort of centralized in that environment. So SharePoint itself kind of running in the back end, but not really focused as sort of the SharePoint on-prem application as we've known it. But with our long history of building productivity applications on SharePoint, we've gotten tons of feedback. We've built out-of-the-box applications. We built this development platform called NITRO Studio to really to generate this concept and build automation, productivity, efficiency within an organization. So at this point right now, especially with COVID-19 and distributed workforces, is really there was an opportunity to then better leverage that environment as everyone is living in teams. So right now for us is really, why did we build this in Office 365? Well, that's our area of expertise is SharePoint and Office 365. So of course it made sense. But why build anything in that environment is because that's where we live. It's we don't have to go out to third-party applications, log in somewhere else. You're logged in with your credentials and Active Directory, lots of integration capabilities, possibilities. And so for us, it makes a lot of sense, especially, for example, leave requests. Someone wants to go on vacation. Paper forms still exist in a lot of companies, email, or maybe just a, hey, I'm going on vacation, an informal process. For us, it's really more to figure out a systematic way in which we can, an automated way in which we can allow employees, just driving employee satisfaction to allow them to do something easily, get approvals quickly, and then take that particular stress off their day and get them, back to work. So if for that said, I mean, that is the reason for us, is really, that's where we're living today. That's where we're working. And that's a great place to drive, this type of work through an automated process. And that said, let's jump right into what we built, what it looks like. Kind of, you'll see the platform, and I'll turn this over to James or Steva to go ahead and take you through a demo of the leave request system.
Sure, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. I'm just going to make myself the presenter over here so that you can see what our leave request system looks like in real life. So let me go ahead and make that change and make sure I'm sharing the correct screen. Looks like I am. Perfect. So this is our, actually I'm not sharing it. Hold on. Show my screen. Okay.
There we go.
All right, so showing the right thing. Okay, perfect. So this is our leave request template that we built here in the SharePoint interface. So this is one aspect of it, one place that people can come and interact with this leave request system. They're logged into 365, they can go into SharePoint, or they've logged into on-premises SharePoint, and they can click over here pretty easily. Like Jeff was saying, they don't have to go through a third-party application or remember another login system to get to NITRO Studio and where we build these applications. So it makes it a really nice place to come and build these processes, automate these processes with these automated notifications that are going to go out, easy to configure forms, nice looking forms. They're not paper forms, they're not just generic electronic forms, they're actually really dynamic forms that you can build with the tool. And I'll go through some of that today. And so just to kind of give you some highlights of what I'm going to be touching on in the next 30 minutes or so, or more, is that we're going to be talking about this leave request application itself, of course, how it works, and I'll show you how easy it is to submit a request both through SharePoint and through Teams, and also to get that approval through SharePoint and through Teams. And you notice I also do have Outlook up because there is an Outlook integration component as well, where we're sending emails to Outlook and potentially having interactions through the Outlook interface as well. So you got those kind of three touch points: SharePoint, Teams, Outlook. That's where a lot of people spend a majority of their days, at least Teams and Outlook. So we're meeting people where they are with these applications and making it easy for them to tag into them, use them, and work with them, and just automate these processes. So the use case I'm going to show you is that I'm going to have a direct report of mine who is going to submit a leave request to me as JR. You see him logged in as JR. I'll put those screens up side by side so you can see how quickly the communications are moving back and forth between the submission in Teams, and then also notification in Teams, and also notifications in email. So you'll see those side by side as we go through it. And then I'll walk you through how we built it with the forms, how we built it with the workflow designer, and show you what the custom actions piece of it looks like as well. And then so we'll just start there with one of my employees who's happening to be named Pavan is going to be submitting a leave request, and he's going to do that. First, he's going to do it through the SharePoint interface, and to do that, he can go to just simply add a new item to the SharePoint list. And what you'll see is not going to be your SharePoint form. This is going to be one of our NITRO forms, and it's got a lot of features to it that make it look really different than what you get with a standard SharePoint form, right? So this is not looking like a SharePoint form at all. You got the different column widths, you got different columns across, you got different fields across, you got the different section headers and layout, and you got some imagery you can put in there and some different things. It's all dynamic as well. I'll show you that when we get to the piece of it where we talk about the forms aspect. So first of all, Pavan's going to come in here and he's going to submit a request to go on vacation to Legoland. All right, stickler for detail, so I'm going to fix that. He's going on vacation to Legoland, and he's going to say he needs, let's say, a week. Let's say he's going for a week. He's going to leave next week, as a matter of fact. So he's going to leave next week, go on vacation to Legoland. He's going to request 40 hours. He's going to deduct that from his PTO because it is a vacation leave. And if he didn't choose the yes over here, his manager could catch that and say, hey, look, this is actually PTO hours, or you selected to deduct that as PTO hours when really it's a medical or sick leave hours that you should not. So there's going to be a check in place to verify whether he should or should not have those hours deducted from PTO. But just to talk about some of the dynamism of the form, you'll see that it automatically deducted, well, first of all, automatically shows how many PTO that Pavan has, and then automatically deducts the hours that he's entered into the leave hours requested here. And so if I change this back to no, you see it's no longer removing that. Now, where is this number coming from? Well, this can come from a list that you have in SharePoint. So that's what's happening here. We have a list of employees in SharePoint where we calculate their PTO, and we put that number onto the form through some automated processing. So it's a form event action, which is part of the NITRO Forms tool set. And then also the calculation is happening through form event actions as well. And that's all happening through the context of the form. Nothing too fancy, really. I'll show you when we get to the forms piece. It's pretty straightforward to set up some things like that. And really, that's all he needs to do. He could save it as a draft if he wanted to keep it on file and then submit it for approval later, or he could go directly submit it for approval. So you see what we're doing here is we've overwritten the standard SharePoint save and cancel buttons. Well, I guess we left the regular cancel, but we have the different kind of save buttons. It's going, in both cases, it'll save the item, but it's going to do different things based on which button I press. That's part of the custom actions on-demand workflow piece of this tool set. So we're going to go ahead and directly submit it for approval. And I'm going to pop open the NITRO Engage app over here in Teams so that you can see what happens right away. You see this is a previous one, not one, just one we're doing with testing, but keep an eye on over here, hit submit for approval. You see the screen over here changes. We've recorded our record over here. And if you noticed, it's already changed over here. We had our previous request that is up here at the top. And then your new request that I just submitted on his behalf for the 9/19 to 9/23 timeframe. Now, as a manager, as James, myself, coming in here into my Teams interface, I've gotten this notification. I'm getting that alert through the Teams interface. So I'm getting a ping, essentially. It says, you have something going on over here, like similar to a chat. I will also point out that we've gotten a, let's see, probably, yeah, here it is. Okay. Yeah, submitted a leave request to go on vacation, and here's that email that just came through as well. It took a little bit longer, but it came through within about a minute or so. And then you'll see that I have buttons on here to go ahead and approve and deny this right from the Teams interface. So I can hit this approve request, and then it's going to bring up an approve button. I'm going to approve it. And then you'll see over here, I had a notification from Pavan that was submitted, and then you'll see that it was approved. The request go on vacation to Legoland has been approved. So all through the Teams interface right there, I submitted it through SharePoint, but it came in, the response can come through Teams, and then the approval can come through Teams as well. Now I could have approved this through SharePoint as well as the manager of the login. And so we're getting the information, of course, from Active Directory as well. That's part of the forms piece, is that we're getting information about our users from Active Directory. So we're pulling that in. We don't have to go and log in or connect to any other third-party system. Office 365 has that native connection to Active Directory. So you're going to be able to pull in those types of things like manager, phone, email. You'll see when I come back over here, I didn't point it out, but I'll point it out this time. When I click the new form, I don't even have to fill out Pavan's phone number. Who his manager is, it's already known. What his email is, it's already known. That's all information coming directly from Active Directory. So that's another good reason to have this system built in the SharePoint and NITRO interface. Now, one of the keys of this is that Pavan, could, instead of going through SharePoint, could have also submitted this through Teams. And he can type in a command like submit leave request, and you can have a list of set commands that you can teach your users, or they can pull up a list of commands by using a commands, just by typing in commands. And then they can see what options they have available in this NITRO Engage app for Teams. So submit the leave request, just click on that command. And that's going to pop open that form. It's going to look a little different because the form here is not quite the same as what you can do with the SharePoint form. There's more limitations in the Teams interface than there is in SharePoint, but same idea. I could do a similar thing, go on vacation to Lego land. So I can do the exact same one. I'm going to make it a little bit different so you can tell there's a difference. Hawaii. So this time he's going to Hawaii. He's going to go on vacation. He's going to go for another week, and he's going to deduct it from his earned PTO. You'll notice we don't have that same calculation here in the Teams interface, but it's just just because of limitations with the Teams adaptive cards. That's no big deal. You can go, if you wanted that, you could go to SharePoint. So he's going to go a little bit later in the year. He's going to go in December, and he's going to hit submit. Now again, over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice that it'll pop up with that your response is required for this new leave request that was submitted. Again, I could come in here and hit approve, done. Now, if you notice, neither user has moved out of the interface of Teams for this. We still have a SharePoint backend running this, but neither user has come out of the context of Teams to perform those tasks. So that's the power of the NITRO Engage app, and one of the add-ons that's great to include in the NITRO Studio deal is to use that Engage app to build out those kind of automated processes to do it directly through Teams. Now I'm going to expand this out a little bit, and we're going to go back into SharePoint, and I'll show you some of the other elements of NITRO that are driving this process through the leave request application. So we're going to look at the NITRO form, which you can get to in a couple different ways. And one of those ways is that it'll appear right in your ribbon on whatever list you want to configure. Kind of similar to Power Apps, you'd see it right there. NITRO Forms pops open. And now you're going to get this, what you see is what you get WYSIWYG interface for designing this form. So this is what we were looking at earlier, and this is what you're going to be able to see and show for your users. And it's got this really great drag and drop interface. It's got tables where you can delineate where you want your columns. You can add some spacing between your columns like we did here. You can, that gives you the flexibility to lay out the form in any way that works for your organization. A lot of times there's forms that have to be in a particular format with a particular text in particular location. This helps you get there with the tabular format. You're not dragging and dropping, hoping you get it just right. It's all kind of laid out in a nice way for you. You can also preview this form at any point in time if you wanted to go and take a look at what it's going to look like both in the desktop and then the mobile type interfaces. You can also see the different types of forms, new, edit, and display. You see here's what a new form will look like in the desktop. But if you wanted to optimize it for mobile, you can also click on the mobile link in the preview and see how that's going to look for your mobile users. Of course, we're doing this demo from the context of a desktop, but your users might want to submit these things through a mobile interface, so that's a possibility for you to see what that looks like as well. And then you'll notice there's some options here. Let me go back to that preview just for a second. You can permission your columns to hide or show based on what is being selected. So let's say we have a process here where when we select the leave type of sick leave, we don't want any PTO information on there because sick leave is just a sick leave. It's guaranteed by government or whatever reason. All that disappears. You see, it just by virtue of selecting leave type as sick leave, everything else goes away that we don't need. Bring it back in. So you got that dynamic permissioning of things being hidden or shown. You could also extend that concept to fill things out or make fields required based on certain selections in the form. So there's a lot of flexibility in those rules essentially that you're putting around your columns. So you can build all that out. I won't go into that in great detail in just the interest of time we have today, but I just wanted to point those things out. And from the Forms UI aspect of it, just one other thing I'd like to point out is that within these tables, you can actually add some more theming and styling. So you can make the colors different. You can make the colors within the cells different. You can make this back panel color different. Let's just show you what this looks like here with changing this color up just a little bit to be sort of a, kind of a lightish red. This is a required column, so maybe we want to highlight this column on the form and make sure that people see it and fill it out. There you go. We can highlight that. We can do the same thing over here. It often pre-selects the color, which I just selected, which is nice. So you don't have to remember that RGB color, because copy and paste it if you needed to. And you can do the same thing down here, and actually the whole table, and this is just a 4x1 table of 4 columns in 1 row. We could apply that same color to the whole table here. It's somewhere in that range. I could go get it exactly, but I'll just leave it around there for now. So pretty close, but I can go get the exact color. But you can see how you can highlight those required fields and make sure that people are highlighting them, filling them out, and you can do stuff with the labels too, and make them bold and highlighted. So there's quite a lot we can do here with the form to make it look differently. We can create different themes. One thing you'll notice is that these buttons are pretty blocky, not that exciting. Well, we can go and change that theme to something different. I created this new theme where we have, let's just go and edit it to show you. We have the on the buttons option. We can increase that border radius, and we'll save that. And when we apply that new theme, let me see if it applied. Yep, all right, good. So now I got some rounding around those buttons. We can put some more colors around those buttons too, make them look a little different. There's actually quite a lot you can do with these themes, and that's one of the fun parts. It's fun. It's fun. One of the fun parts of dealing with these buttons is you can make the, you can put like a gradient in there, which I always like to do. We can copy that over and put it in here. You need to have like a different hover gradient. I'll just leave that blank so you can kind of see the difference. And you see it kind of looks, so it doesn't look great because we got to change the font color over to black, but you get the idea. You can kind of iteratively play with it and make it look differently based on the feedback. And you just do it on the fly right there. So make that change. Now you see the color changes for all the buttons. We could even go to each button specifically and have our own button style. You see we've got all that there. So we could actually highlight our buttons differently if we wanted to. But there's just some like one of the minor things we can do that's really UI thing. Maybe it's not that minor, but it's a UI thing that I think is really cool. But from a functionality perspective and automation perspective, there's a lot more going on here with the form event actions. That's another piece of it where we're calculating remaining hours after approval, reducing it from the earned PTO, populating employee lookup. So we've got a few things that are happening from a event, kind of a minor processing standpoint within the context of the form itself, like we're getting information and updating form controls. So we can get into that detail to have things happen on the context of the form. So that's one level of automation, is to, on the form itself, create those like form event action things, create those processes to make things highlight or make things hide or show based on what's being selected. Now, the next level in that is what we call custom actions, and really you could think of it as like an on-demand workflow. And that's what we're doing in some respects behind these buttons here, is that you can have, I'll just pull a new one onto the form so you can see it, a custom action, which is on click, on this button click, something's going to happen. Now, what's going to happen? A lot of different things can happen. And just to kind of show you the breadth of what's possible, we have our, I'm just going to open up a new custom action in our designer interface here, where you can have any number of things happen when you click that button. You can add an item, you can update items, you could execute a script, you could send an email, you could query a list to get information, and then use that further in processing. You can send the cards, you can post an adaptive card. So all that can be done on the click of a button, and multiple things. I mean, we're not just talking about one thing here. We can make this, extend this, and make this as complicated as we want. So if we wanted to add other things in here to, send an email in this direction or update a list item in this direction, we can do that. just create a connector over here, very easy to do that. We can bring this back around and end it over there. We can drag these things around. Makes it a real nice visual way to see what processing is going to happen when you click that button. And we're going to see that in the workflows as well. But yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry to interrupt here. I said there's a question that came in with regards to workflow is can we connect to an external solution? Like, for example, I'm just assuming someone's thinking of like ADP or another third-party app that would push and pull data into that system.
Yeah. So we got that on a couple different levels where we got this invoke web service action where you could go and pull information, push or pull information. You can do the get, post, put, delete actions. All those can be done through the web service action that you can connect to. So that's a way that you can use APIs to connect out to other systems and bring information into the system and use it in your workflow or in your custom action, whatever you're building. Now we also have that on the form itself. If we go to form settings, you'll see there's external data columns. Essentially, this is like a SQL query that's going to get information from a SQL database and bring it into your form, and that you can use for your processing. So you're not just limited to what's in SharePoint. You're not limited to just using, obviously there's connections over to Teams, connections over to other tools, but there's other ways to extend it even beyond to many other tools that you can connect over with the APIs. So you got all those possibilities with the actions, and from the simple sending emails to updating list items to more complex invoking web services and even invoking Azure functions. That's another piece of this, is that you could go and invoke an Azure function instead of another web service. So if you're more familiar with Azure and want to build your stuff over there, you can certainly go ahead and do that. So there's a lot there. Again, you got this visual interface to see how things are going to go. There's a debugger piece of this. There's publishing settings, versioning settings. That's another big piece of this, is that you can see who published what, when, who made it, what were the changes. You can roll them back. You can export the settings. You can import the settings from a different site. If you wanted to build a test site and then import settings from that test site into this, you can do that with the forms, custom actions, and workflows. So at all those levels, you can do it. You see within our leave request system specifically, I'm just going to close out of that. I'm not going to save anything there. I'll close that too.
While you're opening that up, James, one other question too is we talked about NITRO Engage, and the question is NITRO Engage a third-party plugin, or do we need to subscribe to it? Also I guess in addition to that was is that part of this solution? What is it? Can you explain that real quick?
Yeah. So NITRO Engage is an app that is a little. We sell NITRO Studio as a package, which is going to include the forms and the workflows and the custom actions. And then we also have the NITRO Engage app, which is a separate license purchase, but not that much more to add on to your subscription. But that would run in your Teams interface. So you got the NITRO Studio, which is mostly running within the SharePoint, configured from the SharePoint interface, and then you've got the NITRO Engage, which is mostly running from the Teams interface. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, NITRO Engage, it's a module of our solution, but as we do an install of the NITRO Engage app, it can be used, clearly for what James has just showcased here, but also as an enterprise continues to sort of push NITRO Studio throughout the enterprise for other things, like, for example, it might be, an employee like a requisition of an employee that goes for approval, or purchase request, or contract management, whatever it might be. There's a number of commands for NITRO Engage, sort of bot commands that can be configured. So there's some standard out of the box configuration around that, but we fully support and help our customers through the implementation of the NITRO Engage app, as it's a fairly sort of, there's a number of commands there out of the box, but it's fairly customizable, and not fairly, but very customizable in terms of each particular business process that you might want to build.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so it works in tandem. It works hand in hand with the workflow tool, where we have these the ability to post these adaptive cards, but then those can invoke workflows on the back end. So you can definitely connect up, not even, within NITRO Studio itself, you're going to be able to connect up to these different things across different applications. So then the other thing I wanted to point out was the workflow piece. So actually, let me dig into one of these. Where am I over here? Okay, let me dig into this leave request itself. You can see these custom actions we built for the leave request are really quite straightforward, and this is how, it's as simple as you can get with the NITRO toolset. Is that you can update the request status to approved, and that's the approve button that you'd see on the form. Where over here you got this approved button. So that's going to invoke this custom action over here that's going to predefine, at the predefined values to set the approved status. And you got the, another field that we're filling out for some information, request is approved by whomever the manager is. And then we send an email. So it's really pretty simple processing at this point, right? So this is a little simplistic in what you can do with the custom actions and the workflows. But that might meet a lot of business needs, is simply updating something and sending an email, updating something, sending an email, adding an item and sending an email. That's going to cover a lot of your cases. I mean, these are fairly easy, really easy to set up for you to update things, create items. I was just thinking today, I have a process I need to put in place to create tasks for across multiple weeks for certain projects. I'm going to do that with custom actions because all I have to do is click a button and it's going to go and create my tasks for me. And I don't have to go and sit there, create task A for week A, task B, sorry, I don't have to go through all that manual data entry to do it. All I have to do is set my one custom action, run it, and let it go. And to that end, and one thing I want to point out too is we have this loop control. So again, we could iterate through and create any number of items in a list by using this loop control, where we could say, we're going to go out to here to update an item, and we're going to do something like this, like go update this list item, and then we're going to bring it back into that to test back again. So basically what this is going to do is going to iterate through. Yeah, so essentially what it's going to do is going to go over here, update the list item, and then check the value. Go iterate, go update another list item, check the value. Go update another list item, check the value. And then once let's say it's gone through 10 iterations or whatever you set up, then it'll continue on in the process. So another way to kind of easily automate creation of multiple things, multiple items. We can even change this over to a create item action to make a little more sense, probably. Add list item.
James, one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
We're asking, one is, essentially it seems, is there a trial? So is there a way to test this? And then subscription costs. So let me address that real quick. So, so the answer would be yes. And I think that you'd want to contact us to talk about, requirements and what that looks like, that we can work with our customers with a POC or a test. The subscription costs, just kind of focus on the Office 365 and Teams product costs, is we have up to 50 users. It's $3.99 a month as an annual subscription. As we move from beyond there, then we go from 51 to 250. We're at a $2 per user. And when we get set to 250 users, we start getting sort of this volume discounts all the way down to $1.50 a user. So, actually an incredibly affordable solution, and it's a fixed cost. So this is one of the things I want to mention as well, is that there is no, I don't know if anybody on this webinar has had experience in building on the Power Platform, but great solution, lots of things you can do without incurring any additional costs. But once you get into, with anything that's going to increase sort of this variable cost within the Power Platform pricing model, there's like a 30-something page doc that describes pricing on there, and there's a number of things that could increase that price just based on that one app that you guys are trying to build. So this is a fixed cost, easy to budget. That's what it is. It starts at $3.99 for 50 for a company up to 50, and then goes all the way down to like $1.50 as you get to volume. But I would say contact us after this, and we can talk about a test or a pilot for you, so you kind of get your head under the hood and play around with it. We'd be happy to talk to you post webinar.
Yeah, sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah, we'll definitely follow up. Anyone who's having questions about that, would certainly love to hear from you if you have interest in a more detailed demo of all these different really cool features that we're showing today with this loop control and moving through. But I also want to show.
Yeah, on the heels of that, I know you're going to show us something else, but since there's a lot of questions coming in, I thought we just kind of address those. So, and James, I'll let you talk about this. One, I did talk about the pricing model difference, right? So that's going to be one obvious to this particular question. But the question is, how is this different than from Nintex or Power Apps?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think for Power Apps specifically, I'll start there. It's going to be a little bit different in the sense that like Jeff was saying, you have a fixed cost that you're not going to be suddenly incurring large fees because you connected over to the Dataverse and without realizing it. There's also the governance aspect of this where you can control who has access to Nitro through the permissions in SharePoint. You can determine only site owners have access, or only a certain level of site owner has access, or managed website permission has access to do anything with this. So you're going to be able to control where this is spread through your organization. You can control where it's deployed. You can see that from the top level of where is Nitro activated for a site, where is that Nitro activated for a site collection, and then you can dig in and see where it's activated for those different things. Where Power Apps gives you some insight into that, but I think you could have someone build something and they don't realize it's going to start incurring the company a bunch of money. So there's a little bit of a cost concern there they might want to be aware of. As far as how we compare to Nintex, I think we've got a much better form solution than Nintex. I think it's a lot easier to use. The workflow piece of it, we're continuing to work towards parity in that realm. But I think from the forms aspect specifically, you're going to see it be a lot easier to use, a lot more intuitive, a lot more options, a lot more flexible, a lot more flexibility with what you can do with the forms in this tool set versus the Nintex world. And price point is going to be a huge factor as well. I think that is something to really seriously consider when you're looking at Nintex. We come in quite a bit under that. So it's if you're going to do apples to apples comparison of Nintex across your organization versus our tool across your organization, we're going to come in under their price point every time.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think that we do a lot of competitive research here at Crookan. We've been in this industry for a long time. Nintex, those guys over there are friends. We've known them for a long time, and of course we're connected to Microsoft. So we look at a very friendly, competitive environment here. But I think one thing I can say definitively is support for us. I think that we excel on the support front. I think I always encourage people to go out there and read reviews, of these companies and what people say about the level of support they get. Pricing being an obvious one, but the other is just the engagement of our team with our clients in resolving simple to very complex, business problems and help them throughout their journey. But also, I think we have very, very tenured SharePoint and Microsoft experts on our team that we get feedback on a regular basis of how helpful they were, how quickly they were to respond. And I think that when we're day-to-day business, everything's moving so quickly. I think getting a 24 to 48 to 72 hour turnaround on issues sometimes can be frustrating. So I think that's a standout differentiator for us, is how involved and we are with our clients and making sure they're successful.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that, Jeff. So appreciate that. And let's dig into the workflow side of things. Because one thing I want to point out, we've been talking about these custom actions, kind of on-demand workflows, but we also have these Nitro workflows which run more of event-based, timer-based. They can be based off of queries, with a query in a calendar. For this leave request system specifically, what we're doing is a couple different things. Is we're monitoring when an item is added, and we're going to send out notifications. So that's where those Nitro Engaged notifications and email notifications are coming from. That's one way to do it. When the leave request is modified, so we're getting notifications based on that as well, getting that adaptive card. So these are more event-based kind of things that are happening. That should not have happened. I don't know why that just happened. Sorry about that. We've got the other piece of this with the leave request system we built here is that we've built in a way to automatically calculate up people's PTO. So I'm going to leave this open for a minute and go back to our system here. So we populated with just a couple employees, and because just for demo purposes, but for a team of 5 to 10, 20 users, you could add them in here and calculate their PTO, and then you could calculate that based on their PTO tier. So that's another cool piece of this workflow element, is that based on schedule, you can go and do something. In this case, we're updating a user's PTO every payday. So every 2 weeks or so, we're coming in and we're going to update the employee's PTO and add to it. And then of course, if they go over a certain amount, we're going to kick them back to the max amount that they're allowed for PTO. So it gives us a way to really track how much time they're using. That's going to be when we record those leave request items and they get approved, we're going to be deducting the information from their PTO, the number from their PTO, and that's going to, that way they'll see how much they have left, how much they've used, and if they've hit their max or not. So you got that information, and that's coming from the scheduled queries where we're going to reset at the beginning of the year, and then we, every payday, we're going to run a query and update those PTO amounts. So we got cool things like that. We've also got, user bot triggered ones where, when we're submitting that leave request from the bot, it's triggering a workflow to create that leave request in NITRO. So things like that are happening here as well. But the interface for this, it's going to be pretty similar to what we just were looking at with the custom actions on demand workflows, is that you have the gateways where you can decide which way to go, kind of yes, no choices. We've got different paths that things can go down. And you can see you can build it in a way or design it in a way that looks nice. Of course, we can move things around and make it more complex if we want it, but it gives you the ability to really make it look nice and neat and fixed. And I like it a lot with the flow designers to see where you're going to go in the flow. We've got this excellent debugging option, both in the workflows and in the custom actions. So let's go ahead and process this for this leave request here, which let's grab the ID of this one. It's going to be 21. So there's the ID up there. ID 21. And you see it's going to walk through that whole process and show you which path it's taking as it goes through the workflow. So it takes a minute to get started, and then we'll just hit next, and you'll see information about what's happening with that workflow. So it gives you a nice way to debug what's going on. I think more, going back to that question about how is it different from like Power Apps or now we're talking really about Power Automate, is that you can run through it like this and get, I know Power Automate does tell you kind of where things fail, but this gives you a way to really see like what information are we getting back, what information are we dealing with here, so we can go and see this. So you can see there's some conditions, and is it pending approval? We're making a check here, so we're going to check this gateway. Which way should we go? And then we're going to continue on, and we can see that it's going to evaluate that it's not pending approval, so it's going down this other direction. And so it's skipping this process, and then it's going to go down, check to see if it's approved or denied, which I think I already approved it. So it might go down this route because I already approved it. Yep, it's marked as approved. And you can see it's going to run this action to send an email, and then it's going to run this action to notify the employee. So anyway, just kind of run through, you can see where things are happening, see all the information down here below, as far as if you run into any errors in the process as well. So you get some information, really good information to debug your workflow and your custom actions. You can also see this in workflow logs on the site as well. Yeah, that kind of covers what I wanted to cover with the leave request piece of it and what this application can do for you. There's a few other pieces of it as well, and there's a lot of other things you can do with NITRO, which we're certainly happy to have a conversation with anyone to go through it in more detail. So with that, I think, Jeff, unless you have anything to add, we'll kick it back to Chris to close it out.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for doing that, James. Krista, I'll let you finish up.
Great. Well, thanks, James. Thanks, Jeff. That was great. I can definitely see how this would have a big impact. And I know there's so much that we would love to discuss. We could talk about all the possibilities for hours, but this was great to get just a bit of an overview, and I hope everyone found this informative. If you do have any last minute questions, go ahead and get those in. We are here to help, and we truly enjoy what we do. This is fun for us. So we would love to talk to you about your specific needs. You can go ahead and email us. You can email James directly at james.restivo@crowcanyon.com or Jeff directly at jeff.priest@crowcanyon.com, or you can call us at 925-478-3110.
Hey, Chris, sorry, Chris,
Yeah.
I'm going to make you presenter, so I think you have a slide for that, right?
I do. Thank you. Perfect.
Yep, no problem. I'll make you presenter so you can show that.
Great. Thanks, James.
And just real quick before you go, I did see a question come in about item level permissioning. Yes, in workflows, we can have an automatic set of item level permissions based on conditions. So if you wanted to say a certain type of ticket can only be seen by certain people, a certain type of SharePoint item can only be seen by certain people, certain groups, that's doable. So.
Perfect. Thanks, James.
Sure.
All right. So you can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So here are the emails again, james.restivo@crowcanyon.com or jeff.priest@crowcanyon.com. And our number again is 925-478-3110, or you can hop on over to our website, crowcanyon.com. We know every organization is different, right? So we would love to talk to you about your specific needs and how we can help with that. So don't hesitate to reach out, but we will not keep you today. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.